I feel like just like not the norm type of takes on a lot of this stuff because of how much I know about mindset and psychology and behavior change. But then it's also hard because at some point we do need to sell and we do need to market because we run a business. So it's like, how do we ethically sell? How do we help people feel hopeful rather than ashamed? And then that drives the motivation to buy from us, right? Friends, welcome back to Not Another Mindset Show. If you have been around for a handful of episodes, can you believe that I have sat down in front of this microphone, in front of this camera, 70 times and just talked to myself for 20 to 40 minutes? Isn't that crazy to think about? I'm like, how did I even do that? But here we are, the 70th episode. If you've been around, you know I am constantly talking about mindset, behavior change, psychology, how that applies to your coaching practices, but also how that applies to your life and to your business. So today is a little bit more on the business side of things. However, I know a lot of you are health and fitness coaches, you're coaches in some regard, and you're selling a coaching offer. So I'm definitely keeping that in mind when I'm sharing all of this, and that is where my perspective comes from. That said, if you have any other kind of offer, you're selling anything else in your business, this is still going to be relevant to you. And mindset, psychology, behavior change, decision making, motivation, all of this stuff is so incredibly important for your sales and marketing strategies. I mean, someone coming across your Instagram post, there's so much psychology going on with how they are interpreting your message, how they are interpreting you, how they may or may not make a decision to buy from you based on the messages that you're sharing on social media. I mean, it's so important and it's everywhere. And I don't think marketing and sales is talked about enough from a psychological and mindset perspective, which is actually why this was not the purpose of me starting the episode this way, but it just fits so well, which is why I recently created a brand new offer in my own business called Magnetic Messaging. This is a DIY program, like you could get it done in a weekend type of situation, where I'm walking you through mindset and motivation style messages and how to pick up on how in your current messaging, whether it's in your content creation, in your emails, on your sales pages, how you might be ineffectively speaking to someone's mindset or potentially even encouraging a fixed mindset and in some way, shape, or form kind of scaring them away because of that. Also, just human motivation in general, like how do we speak to what actually motivates people to act, or in this case, to buy. So I'm not necessarily talking about messaging in this podcast episode, but if you listen to this podcast episode and you're like, I see what you're putting down here. I'm picking it up. I'm picking up what you're putting down here, Dr. Kasey Jo. And I want to do more of this. And I want to be more aware of my prospective clients and buyers, their mindset and their motivations, and use that in my sales speak, whether again, that's your website, it's your landing pages, it's your Instagram content, what have you, it applies to everything. Then I will make sure that the link to Magnetic Messaging is in the show notes for you guys. In fact, I'm literally deciding this as I'm saying this. I may give you a little secret discount code. Let's do that. And then I have to remember to do this after this episode. So that will be in the show notes for you if you want to check that out. So what we are talking about today, moving right along, some popular marketing strategies that I don't necessarily fully, wholly agree with. And it's not that I don't see parts of it that are important and that you do need to include. And I will share with you what those parts are, but also that it's just not painting the whole picture. There's some missing aspects to that strategy, philosophy, whatever that we are going to go through that I think are equally as important and are not talked about. So I am going to talk about them. So the first popular marketing strategy philosophy is know, like, and trust. To be honest, if you have owned a business for even like 6 months and you've spent some time looking at how do I market my offers and how do I speak to people so that they buy, you have probably heard about know, like, and trust. It's essentially this idea that in order for someone to buy from you, they need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. So yeah, listen, I agree that it definitely, especially in the world that we live in of personal brands and people buying from people and not necessarily buying from a brand, and how you as a person, you can leverage yourself to sell your products, your offers, your services. Absolutely. I actually am pretty confident that many of you listening to this or watching on YouTube, you feel like you know me to some degree, whether it was through this podcast, it's through following me on Instagram for frickin' the last decade. Maybe you've gone through one of my programs before. You know me to some degree. Hopefully, maybe you like me. And hopefully, maybe, really hopefully, maybe you trust me and you trust that I'm a credible source of information, which all of those things, absolutely. If it doesn't lead you to buying from me, it sure as heck probably leads you to pressing play on the next podcast episode or reading through that long Instagram caption. So especially when it comes to coaching, those of you that have a one-on-one coaching offer, people need to feel connected to you and feel like you're a credible source of information, especially in an industry such as the health and fitness industry that has a lot of mistrust and a lot of fear around, is this going to be another thing that I waste my money on and I spend a bunch of time on and it doesn't give me the results that I'm looking for? And you're literally selling yourself. You're selling a relationship with you. Like, please come and work with me for 6 to 12 months. So because of that, yeah, definitely is important for the people who are interested in working with you to feel like they know you to some degree and that they like you and that they trust you. But we get so hung up on being likable and relatable that we forget the biggest piece of our marketing, which is about the consumer, which is about our audience, which is about the people that we want to help. It's not about us being likable and relatable and getting as many likes on our Instagram post and feeling good and inflating our egos. It's about connecting with the people we want to help. So if you're coming from this place of, I just want to be likable, I want to be relatable, I want for myself to be seen as trustworthy, you are going about this incorrectly. And it shouldn't be about us. It should be about speaking to our ideal clients, our ideal buyers. Because ultimately, it doesn't matter how much they like you, they know you, they trust you, or that you at least put on this facade of a likable, knowable, trustworthy character on the internet. It does not matter if they are still holding themselves back, whether that is their mindset, their belief systems, how they go about decision making, their past experiences. Those things are still going to hold them back. You could be the first person they want to run to if they want to hire a one-on-one health and fitness coach. But all of that other stuff is still going to keep them from actually buying from you. So yes, we do want people to feel like they know us and to feel likable and to feel relatable and to showcase that we are a credible source of information. We do want to do those things, and it is helpful from a marketing perspective, but it is not the whole picture because, again, I mean, I want you guys to think. There's probably people that you follow on Instagram that you're like, oh yeah, I feel like I kind of know this person because I've learned their life and they seem like a really nice lady and all of this stuff. And because she talks about all of the different beauty products all the time and she shares one, like, I do feel like I can trust her opinion on things. But if that person were to release a $2,000 one-on-one coaching offer, are you immediately sold on what that person does? Like, what else comes up for you with that? Well, I would want to better understand how she knows these things, or I really need to make sure that this is something that I want to do, or is this even something that I care about? Is it something that's going to add to my life, or am I just looking at her and thinking she's great, but like, you may not even be actually consciously processing all that stuff, but it's happening. So something to keep in mind is, yes, the know, like, and trust factors are important. However, if you are just doing that to be knowable, likable, and trustable, that's not the whole story. We need to really be thinking about it from the perspective of our ideal clients, our ideal buyers. And if you can do that, it will shift how you are creating content. It may even shift like how you're speaking if you're on your Instagram stories or whatever, and it's coming from that place instead. I think that's important. And I think another thing that's coming up for me here too is just the idea of, I want people to like me. I want people to feel like they know me. That's very different than being authentic in who you are and allowing the people who align with your authenticity, the people who see you for who you are, and going, I like that girl, or I feel like she would get me. That's very different than you just coming off as, I want to be likable to everybody. Because also you literally can't be. I know there are people that don't really like me that much, but then I also know that there are people who really, really like me. And that's just kind of like the fact of the matter. And I would so much rather, and also like if we're calling this a sales strategy, it's really just like fucking be who you are. But from a sales perspective, like, people can sniff that out. They can sniff out where it's like, oh, this doesn't really feel that real, or she's just saying things to be relatable. She's not really speaking from like how she actually feels. People can notice that. I mean, you can notice that. You see that all the time, probably, when you're interacting with people in the real world, where you're just kind of like, that felt off. That didn't really feel real. Or I'm not really grasping who this person is actually. So yeah, I feel like I'm kind of like talking in circles and also on a tangent at this point, but no, like, and trust factor, ultimately, yes, they're important, but you should also not be doing it from a place of just so I can be knowable and likable, and I'm going to put on that persona in order to be that person, because people will see right through you. And also, it should be still coming from a place of like, I'm trying to connect with the people I want to help. And that's okay if it's not everybody, and in fact is more powerful if you don't connect with everyone, because number one, it's not possible. And number two, it's more powerful when you are connecting with specific people, because that means that your message is very clear, your ideal client is very clear, who you help is very clear. It's like the classic, if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. And that's kind of like bundled up inside this entire conversation. Okay, let's move along before I talk you guys to death in circles. The next one, you have heard this before. Give away your best stuff for free. So we're talking lead magnets, freebies, even like in your content. For those of you who are maybe are not familiar with the term lead magnet, it's this idea that you are creating some sort of free opportunity, be it an ebook, a quiz, a webinar, a challenge, something like that. It's free. Could also be just like very low cost, but that's besides the point. Something that you are asking people to come into for free or for very low cost, that then essentially warms them up to buy your signature offer later, the main offer later. So when we're talking about this stuff, and your content is kind of doing the same thing too. They're like mini lead magnets all of the time, because the goal is to quote unquote attract leads. I have a really hard time with just like sales lingo and conversations like this, because it turns people into numbers, and I struggle with that. So when I'm like, yes, we got more leads, or how many leads did we get this week? I'm like, ugh, I kind of like flinch a little bit because it's like, they're not leads. They're human beings that need help, and I want to help, and they're really important to me. So just like, listen, I love me some data and some KPIs and metrics, but at the same time, I have a hard time with that. So it's like, oh, we're just going to have like lead magnet kind of almost sounds like, let's set up a trap. We're going to set up a trap and collect all of these people and then sell them something later. Like that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we are trying to do. The goal with a lead magnet really is to help people recognize what you do offer, how you can help them. It's an opportunity for you to connect with them, build relationships with them so that they can make a confident decision to buy from you, or a confident decision to not buy from you. That's also a plausible outcome and also an important one, because again, we're not trying to attract anybody and everybody. We're trying to help specific people, or at least you should be. So, okay, when we're talking about freebies, lead magnets, even your Instagram content, give away your best stuff for free is this idea. And the goal with that is like, wow, if this is the free stuff, then what is the paid stuff going to be like if the free stuff is this good? And I do agree with that to some degree. For instance, if you're listening to the podcast and you're like, damn, this information is so great. I'm getting so many ideas from my clients and my business, and it's helping me think about my mindset better. What the heck would it be like if I were to jump into Kasey's paid health mindset coaching certification? If I'm getting so much of this stuff and it's so good for free on her podcast, like, oh my God, I can't wait to get an HMCC. Like, you're thinking that, right? Like, you're absolutely thinking that. So the issue here, and this is something that I have learned over time, absolutely, and to be so transparent, was not very good at for a long time. And that's because of my background in academia and teaching. And the issue with the giveaway your best stuff for free is that it can turn into just a lot of how-to content. Let me show you exactly how to set up your macros and track them. Let me tell you exactly why you're self-sabotaging and how to fix it. And you are giving away, yes, your best stuff for free, but then you're also leaving people with a lot of information and things to do on their own, to the point where maybe, likely, and like I said, I was doing this myself, they have no reason to buy from you. They have no reason to hire you. You've given them so much information and so much how-to content already that they're like, dude, before I ever think about buying something from you, hiring you, I got to get through all this free stuff first. You already gave me so much. So you're essentially not leaving enough for them to want to buy from you. And this is not me saying we should be like purposely withholding everything, but also at the same time, yes. Because if you're running a business, and this is something I talk to my mentorship clients about a lot, if you're running a business and this is your livelihood, this is your job, this is how you make money, then honey, we got to make some money. So it can't just be, I'm going to coach people for free and do all of this stuff for free all of the time, because you are running a business and you do need to make sales. So there is that aspect of it. And also, I want you to get paid for your time. We're already, so many of you, myself included, we're doing so much for free. We're spending hours and hours. I've been in front of this podcast microphone for what will be, okay, between mapping out the outlines, deciding on topics, and actually recording and uploading everything after the fact, getting it ready for publishing, like 10 hours this week. And I'm not getting paid a dime to do that, right? So at some point it becomes, okay, you're putting in so much time and effort and you are sharing so much stuff for free. You should get paid for it, right? So if we're doing too much how-to content and giving people so much, they will already feel like they know what they need to do, and they've been given so much stuff for free that they're just going to try to do it on their own, and they don't actually need to pay you for anything. And there's also like another detriment to this, because we all know, especially in the coaching space, nothing really compares to working with people one-on-one and actually getting to interact with them in real time. So yeah, they may be getting like your ebooks or your PDFs or your guides or whatever, reading through your Instagram stuff and picking up some stuff and learning from you, but it's still not going to give them the results that they really want. It's still not going to teach them all of the things that they need to know. So if you're doing this and then people aren't buying because of it, you're actually doing them a disservice because they're not getting the full experience. They're not getting what they actually need and everything that they need. So instead, I'm not saying never post educational content, stop teaching altogether, but pay attention to how much you are teaching the how rather than the what and the why. So, for instance, one of my main messages, and you guys have heard me say this a billion times at this point. I'm sick of hearing myself say it. No, I'm not, because I love what I do. But I say this all the time, that the key, the secret sauce, if you will, to effective coaching strategies, to helping clients stick to the plan, stick with you longer, and stop self-sabotage is understanding client psychology, mindset, behavior change. That is the what, that is the why, it is the umbrella message that I have. So I spend a lot of time talking about like, hey, this is what's important when it comes to the science of self-control that you need to be paying attention in your clients. But I'm not necessarily giving you all of the tools and the strategies and all the things and how you add these to your things to your check-in forms and communicate with your clients, because that, my friends, is what you get inside the health mindset coaching certification. But I will help you understand the science of self-control. I have podcast episodes on this stuff. So it's almost like I want you to believe, and I want you to confidently trust me. And I do want to give you something, but I simply cannot give you all of it because that's what lives inside my paid programs. And that is also the perspective that you need to be taking. Like, I don't know how else to say this, but like, we're not out here running nonprofit organizations. Like, I got to feed my dog, right? So, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to just be sitting here and telling you all day long that you need to include mindset and behavior change and psychology in your coaching practices and then give you nothing after that. But I am giving you something. I'm helping you understand. I'm helping you. It's sort of like a kickstart effect. But then if you decide, and that is your decision, if you decide you want more, then you know where to find me and you know where to find my paid programs. So what we should be doing is, yes, give away some good freaking stuff, please. But don't get into the habit of giving away everything and just like teaching everyone the step-by-step process for everything. And instead help people uncover the underlying reasons for their struggle or for their lack of success. Help them feel hopeful that there is a solution to what they're struggling with. Like, for instance, the number of coaches that I talk to that just feel like their hands are tied because they don't know how to help clients who self-sabotage. And so then I want to come in and tell you, hey, here's all these different forms of self-sabotage and what could be going on with your clients. And now you're going, oh my God, I feel like there's actually something I can do here. And now I want to learn more. And now you want to become a health mindset certified coach through my program. So your free stuff should teach the what, and your paid stuff should teach the how. And that's just, again, like general blanket statement here, because you can still teach like, hey, if you're talking about like creatine supplementation, like 5 grams a day is the clinically effective dose. So are you saying like, Kasey, I can't like tell people that? No, you can. You can still educate. Just be cautious with how much you're doing that. And again, this is coming from someone who is still recovering from doing this, and I still catch myself doing it. And to some degree, it's okay, but you just don't want to be doing it all the time. All right. I have so much to say about this. All of these things. I really sat down with this podcast episode and was like, man, I could probably like fly through this one. Who am I kidding? All right. So next one, pain point marketing. I wish you guys could see my face if you're listening on podcast form here. So with pain point marketing, what are we trying to do here? We are trying to make people feel so badly about themselves that they decide to hire us, that they decide to buy from us. It's like a twisting the knife type of marketing strategy. Like, oh, you don't feel comfortable in your body? Let me twist that knife and tell you that, like, oh, when you wake up in the mirror and you see yourself and you feel disgusted, or you go throughout the day just thinking about how tight your clothes fit on you, like, oh my God, literally I could vomit. So yes, I'm talking about pain point marketing, but like at the most extreme sense, right? So just like with everything that I'm talking about here, I'm not saying we shouldn't speak to our clients' struggles. And one could argue that that is pain point marketing. If you're saying like, oh, this is what you're struggling with. You're not feeling great on a day-to-day basis. You know that there's things that you can change. You're just not sure what they are. You're so frustrated with second guessing and all of the misinformation that's online when it comes to dieting and health and fitness behaviors, and you just don't know what to do. That is very different than, do you hate yourself? Great. Let me help you hate yourself less. So yeah, the weight loss industry is just absolutely notorious for all of this. Like, hate your body, great, here's a solution for that. And messaging like that doesn't make you feel good. It makes you feel bad. And I'm sure so many of you have had experiences like this, whether it's in health and fitness, weight loss, or otherwise. Like, I've had my own experiences for sure. Even just like, there's a company one time, I think I shared this story on the podcast recently. I feel like I did. I don't know, like I said, 70 episodes, you start to forget what you've said and what you haven't said. So I was interested in hiring a team to come in and train my sales team when I still had a health and fitness coaching company. And they just had so many icky sales tactics, which is also hilarious, because if that's how you are selling me on your program, that means that's exactly what you're teaching inside said program. So like, get me the F out of here. But it was a situation where it was so much of like, how do I make her feel so bad that she needs us? And I saw all of that, was like, God, you're making me feel so crappy. Why would I give you my money? But certain things, like how I had mentioned, hey, this is a decision I need to make with my team, because they're the ones who are going to be going through the program, my sales team. So I need to chat with them about it, run this by them, make sure they're on board. And then it would turn into, aren't you the CEO? Don't you make the decisions? Why do you need to go back to your team? And I'm like, oh, okay, we're going that direction. But yeah, they made me feel so badly, and they think that type of marketing and sales is going to work. And I mean, it must, because they're doing it that way. Did not work on me. And ultimately, like, you don't want to make people feel worse, especially, oh my gosh, if we're talking about one-on-one health and fitness coaching offers, and your sales tactic is to just make someone feel so bad and so guilty and ashamed of themselves. And then they bring that energy that you've cultivated in them into the coaching relationship. And then you turn around and you are complaining about how negative this person talks about themselves and how much they struggle with their image and sticking to the plan and all this stuff. Like, dude, you brought that upon yourself, right? So again, I'm not saying you should never mention the struggles that your prospective clients, prospective buyers face, but instead help them recognize what's actually holding them back and how you can offer a solution to that. So what's underlying some of this stuff? What might they be missing? How can they see themselves in some of the shoes of your current clients? And you could even, okay, backing up a little bit here, because I want to make this point. For instance, when you have like exit surveys, or you're gathering like testimonial feedback from clients, asking them something like, what were you feeling before you came into coaching? What did that frustration look like? What were your struggles? What did you face before you joined us? And they share with you what they were going through. And then follow-up question, how did that change once you started working with us? What were you able to do differently now? And how do you see things differently? How does your day-to-day life feel differently? and then being able to package that up into a piece of content or use that on your sales pages, your websites, whatever, so that someone can come across and go, oh my gosh, those are my struggles. That is some of the pain and the frustration that I feel. I am just like this person, and wow, that all got to change for them when they started working with this coach. That is so good to see. That makes me feel really hopeful. It makes me feel like I have a place here. That is entirely different than making people feel bad about themselves in order to sell what you have to offer. Okay, next one. Whew. I feel like I can get pretty worked up about this stuff. I just have so many different, I feel like just like not the norm type of takes on a lot of this stuff because of how much I know about mindset and psychology and behavior change. But then it's also hard because at some point we do need to sell and we do need to market because we run a business. So it's like, how do we ethically sell? How do we help people feel hopeful rather than ashamed? And then that drives the motivation to buy from us, right? And I think so much of like sales and marketing can just end up feeling like icky and gross. And I mean, this is why I also, not to plug another one of my programs, I promise the goal of this podcast was not to just like sell you on things, which is so funny since we're talking about selling. The Psychology of Signing More Clients is another DIY offer that I have. And the purpose of that was for so much of what we're talking about here is to help you just like better understand how people make decisions and why they may be motivated to work with you or not, and core psychological principles that should be applied to your sales and marketing strategies so that you can sign more clients, but do so in a way that feels good. So I will also link that offer link the offer link in the show notes below. So if you want to check out magnetic messaging, which I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, and the Psychology of Signing More Clients, they are very, very like stupid affordable workshops. You have them for life. You can go through them at your own pace. You can comment below any of the video modules and ask me questions, and it goes directly to my email inbox and I can respond to you. Yeah. But that's why I created these things, like for all of these reasons and all the passion that is coming up from me during this episode. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is very health and fitness coaching oriented, is before and after photos, transformation photos. I'm not saying don't use them. I'm saying that there should be various ways that you use them, and it should not be your only testimonial marketing strategy. Yes, use before and after photos and showcase the process. Like I was kind of saying before with the idea of testimonial exit survey type of questions and asking clients who are graduating from your program, asking them where they were before they hired you and then how that changed over time. We kind of want to be eliciting the same result when we are talking about client transformations. So not just a before and after photo, after before and after photo, after before and after photo, over and over and over again, but walking people through, here's where my client Rebecca was. Here's how she was feeling. Here's all the stuff that she tried. Here were some of her frustrations. And yes, she lost 30 pounds, and this is how different she physically looks. But let's talk about what's also different based on how she's feeling, what her day-to-day life looks like, the things that she's saying to herself, how she's cut out the food noise in her life that was taking over so much of her mental energy before. We want to walk people through a story, through a process, through a full transformation, not just weight loss. And also, not just that type of process and what that looks like, what the transformation looks like in different ways, but also, how did you get from point A to point Z? You're just showing point A and point Z. Talk about it. The first 3 months was hard. Rebecca really struggled to stick to the plan. Here's all the different tools and strategies from behavior change science that I learned in the health mindset coaching certification that I learned and was able to employ in my coaching practices to help her reframe the ways that she was seeing herself and seeing some of these behaviors. And by the 4th month, half of the things she was struggling to do before, she was able to do very habitually with barely even having to think about it. You can also talk about like the process from more of like nutrition and training perspective. Like we started with a couple days in the gym, and now, fast forward 6 months and she's in the gym consistently 4 times per week and hasn't missed a week in months. Or we tried different types of nutrition protocols or methods and realized that macro tracking wasn't for her. So we switched to this other thing. And then that wasn't really working well because she had these upcoming trips. And so we did this instead. And just paint the full picture, the full story. Take your audience, your prospective clients along for the ride of what it looked like to work with Rebecca for 12 months, rather than just showcasing Rebecca's 30 pounds of weight loss over the course of 12 months. Take them through that. Allow them to really be in the shoes of Rebecca and see themselves in that. And also, this is building credibility and trust. And they can really you're pulling back the curtain of all of the different things and stuff that you would try. That doesn't mean that they could take that post and go and do it themselves, because I know we were talking about not doing how-to content all the time. But you're walking them through the process and walking them through the different stages and phases and how this works in your coaching practices beyond just, she lost some weight, look at the photos. Because also you have to remember that there are people in your audience, and I actually talk about this in magnetic messaging, the copywriting mini offer that I was talking about before, how there are a lot of people in your audience who have a fixed mindset and they don't believe in their abilities to lose weight and keep it off. So if you're not adequately speaking to those people, and instead just showcasing a client before and after photo, so many people who have a fixed mindset are going to look at that and go, great for Rebecca, but could it be me? Instead, if you were to show more of the process behind Rebecca's transformation and the story and the coaching relationship that you had with her, they will see themselves as Rebecca rather than seeing Rebecca as a transformation that Rebecca could have, but they could not. Okay, I feel like I have said a lot here. I am, again, if you are interested in more of this type of content and more how-to content and how to actually directly apply some of mindset, motivation, behavior change type of science to things like your marketing strategies, like your sales pages, like your Instagram content, magnetic messaging, and the psychology of signing more clients, I will put those both in the show notes. And I know I said earlier I was going to give you a secret discount code for magnetic messaging, and now I feel like I have to do that for psychology of signing more clients. So I will do that too. I'm not going to put this anywhere else except for in this episode and in the show notes of this episode. So it is a secret. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. Helped you think a little bit more about some of these really common perspectives when it comes to sales and marketing. Know, like, and trust. Give away your best stuff for free. Before and after transformations, all the stuff that we talked about. I hope you're thinking a little bit differently and maybe just thinking about the nuance and the other aspects that are just as important, kind of beneath the face value of those philosophies, strategies, whatever we want to call them. Okay, my friends, I'm going to wrap it up there, and I will see you next week.